Hi, everybody. I am Joyce Chow. I'm the founder and festival director of IHollywood Film Fest. And today we have with us our very own Michelle Tabrizi-Ortiz. Michelle, thank you for joining us.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you for having me today. I'm very, very grateful to you.
And we wanted to bring Michelle on today because, well, let's just say she's one of the core people with IHollywood Film Fest. And we wanted to allow everybody to get to know some of the core people. So to give you a little bit of background, IHollywood Film Fest was the first film festival to award NFTs to winning filmmakers, and the first film festival to award films based on energetic frequency with the IM Awards. IHollywood Film Fest is a member of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, as well as their committee meetings on entertainment, arts, and media, plus the tourism committees. We started because of the pandemic, because we saw all these creators at home, and it was a unique opportunity for them to go ahead and create and flourish in ways that they had never done before. So IHollywood Film Fest is creating a community to encourage creativity, diversity, and inspire storytellers from around the world with access to networking, workshops, talent, distribution, finance, and resources, and open up new avenues of prosperity. And we like to say prosperity because we believe that all creatives,
that's right,
can advance and prosper, and also with the help of technology, because technology,
absolutely.
Let's just say we're in a world of technology, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it, love the vibe.
And Michelle, she's the music producer for IHollywood Film Fest, and I'm going to just say this right now, is you're the reason we had an after party. Okay.
And that was a great after party. What a wonderful after party.
Now I'll say that Michelle is the reason we had the after party, and a rock concert. And she's also the reason we were able to say we were the first film festival with a rock concert with NFTs. But she could probably say, because of the timing, that we were probably the first rock concert with NFTs. Right?
I think so. I really do, because I don't think anybody was out performing when we had our film festival. So I think we could take both of those titles, to be honest with you.
We could, because
we need to look into that.
We'll have to look into that, because we actually held the festival within 2 weeks after, if you want to call it, the gates were opened after the pandemic.
We did. We pulled it off. We did a fantastic job. I was so honored, and I was just, I don't know how to even describe this. I was just stood back with you, at one point when everyone was walking the red carpet and the rockers were there and some of our sponsors were there. And I was like, wow, we did this. It was that aha moment, like we really pulled this together, because you and I and a couple core people knew how difficult that was. And just, that culmination of what happened at the end there, we were like, okay, kind of closing our eyes and making that turn into traffic, It
was. Michelle, what made you want to have a rock concert?
So, it's always, I love rock and roll, as you know, and as you know, my background, but basically, I was a makeup artist in the 90s when rock was emerging into a different kind of, new alternative rock with your, Stone Temple Pilots and Nirvana and those guys. So I was the classic rock gal. I was hanging out in Hollywood. I was doing makeup on new emerging bands at the time that wanted makeup, on for their videos. And so I was at the, the Rainbow and, Viper Room and the Whiskey, all the time and hanging out with these guys. So then now, all these years later, 30 some years later, we're all older. And I was hearing through the grapevine how, they weren't performing and they were sitting home and they were wondering if they're going to get out again. And there was so much talent with these guys and people, still name recognition, brand recognition, that I was like, have a film festival. What do you guys think? And they're like, oh, absolutely. Can you get me in? Kind of like that back in the day, like, can you get me in? I'm like, I think I can, so, and then, of course, Paul came about with that, the movie of the Charvel Gang, contacted me and we spoke. And then, that movie premiere really, was iconic in a lot of ways because, of course, the unfortunate passing of Eddie Van Halen. And then the guitar, shop is kind of still there. and it has a history. So that was a good piece to kind of fit together with our film festival, and then the rock concert that went along with it, right? And then of course the new rock royalty kids that are coming out and emerging in their own way from underneath their father's big footsteps. That was kind of cool having them there as well. So that's kind of what I was thinking, is that everybody needs to get out and everybody needs a platform. And like you said earlier, all the creatives need a way to express their gift, right? And so we did it, and we encouraged and invited others to do it. And I think it turned out pretty well.
I think it did too. And I just want to add something, is tell us about the talent that you were able to corral for the festival.
You mean
or
like
for the party? Yes.
So basically, of course, I Noah Weiland is, Scott Weiland, the lead singer of Stone Temple Pilots, legendary award-winning rocker. His son Noah is a family member to me, and he's out singing. So he was able to come out and perform. And within his band, he has Tye Trujillo, and he's the bassist for Noah's band and his own Otto. And his father is a legendary bassist, Robert Trujillo from Metallica. And then we had Derek Day, and he's the lead singer of his band. Well, he has his own band that played at ours, the trio, the Derek Day band. But then he's also the lead singer of Classless Act. And he is going on tour with Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Joan Jett, and Poison. So super excited for them. And then we had Chris Granger, back there on the drums with Paul Gervasi, and he's also the son of the legendary guitarist for Rod Stewart. So yes, we had some rock royalty kids. I call them. I can't call them children. And then we had some media outlets that were doing interviews, which was really cool. Like Eric Blair, Blairing Out came out, and we had some press releases, and it was covered pretty well. I was pretty impressed with that.
Great job. Great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome. And you know what? And it all started because you were such a fan of rock and roll. But before that, you got into that because of makeup.
Well, yeah. We did forget to mention, oh dear Lord, Scott Page came. You forgot Scott Page from Pink Floyd. Oh my gosh, our friend Scott.
How could we forget Scott?
Well. Because I guess he's just, one of our friends now. We don't think about it. He's very impressive. But yes, the saxophone player for Pink Floyd also performed. So yes, I got into this because of makeup. So I was a makeup artist for majority of my life. It was always something that I aspired to be as a young child. But it was difficult in my home. My dad was a foreigner, he was an immigrant, and in his belief system, we had to go to college and have big titles behind our names. And so you could relate probably, but so we're from the same continent. So anyway, that was not happening for me. So he wanted me, basically, I love my dad, but he's like, I want you to go somewhere and you're going to be like a lawyer, or, you're going to go get a, degree from a good university. I'm like, no, I'm not. I want to do makeup, So that didn't go over well. And so I did move out and moved into Hollywood, and I pursued that dream. I was pounding pavement, and I was working a couple jobs until I can get jobs. So I worked I did makeup for prescriptives basically, and then Chanel during the day so I could have my benefits and pay my rent. And then at night I would go and teach makeup at John Casablancas modeling agency, Elite Models. And then I would do makeup for rock bands, that had the budget, because they never did, to pay me. So I was working a lot to afford my apartment up there below the Hollywood sign. And that's all I did was I worked, and then I go out and party. So that was my life cycle, this 24-hour cycle, 7 days a week. But it just, I loved all of it. I love the makeup aspect of it. I love the friendships. I love the projects. I did some, fashion weeks. I did magazines too. I got whatever side work that I can get because it was just something that I love to do. And that's kind of how I got introduced to a lot of the rockers. The movie Dirt came out with Motley Crue, and it was so interesting because that was a regular when I was at the Rainbow every night. They would come in, they'd argue it out, fight it out. There was girls under tables doing things they shouldn't be doing. There was people in the back of the restaurant doing things they shouldn't be doing. They serve delicious Italian food. I don't think anybody realizes at the Rainbow it's an Italian restaurant. But you never knew who you... Yes, it is. I know. Nobody realizes that. The food is delicious too, right? And so, you know, they'd serve the best pizza. And the way I found out about the food is the owner, Big Mario, his nephew was Philip Tanzini, and he was a little boy in General Hospital. And he met me one night, and we kind of went out on a little bit of a date. And he's like, "Yeah, my uncle owns a Rainbow." And I'm like, "What? Your uncle owns a Rainbow? Seriously?" So he walked me into the back to have his pizza from his uncle, and there's Motley Crue sitting there eating pizza. And that was my first kind of contact of understanding, wow, this is an Italian kitchen. Like everybody was there, you know, talking in Italian and making the food. And Big Mario, unfortunately, passed away a few years ago. Great guy. He was back there talking and yelling orders. And his nephew, Philip Tanzini, was there. And I was kind of like, whoa, it's a restaurant. It serves Italian food. There's a bunch of rock and rollers over there, you know. And Big Mario was saying he didn't want the restaurant tore up because Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses at the time would fight. They'd physically fight and tear the restaurant up. So he'd say, "No fighting, guys. Just sit back here and eat, you know, knock it off." Like, you know, old school back in the day, back in the East Coast Italian. So that's how I kind of realized at that time that, you know, we were in an Italian restaurant because there's so many famous people just coming and going and sitting and hanging out in the back and drinking and doing all kinds of crazy things that they shouldn't be doing, which is for another time.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So from living your dream in Hollywood.
Okay, yes.
Right? Doing makeup with all the rock and rollers and living it up. How did you end up getting into media and teaching?
So basically, like the old story goes, I decided to get married. And so, you know, I'm from Los Angeles, you know, I'm native fourth generation Angelino, honestly. And I love LA. I just do, but I just knew that it wouldn't probably be good for my kids. So I actually got married and moved out to the Temecula Murrieta area, which is a great family community. The wineries are here. It's beautiful, a little hot, but my husband was from here, and we just made a decision that it would probably be best to raise our family out here versus in LA. And then I was doing work when I first was married, and I was driving back and forth, commuting back and forth, and I just really wanted to be a mom. So I was like, you know, this is not going to work out. Like, the kids have to go to school, and I got to get them to school, and then I got to pick them up in the middle of the day, and I'm on a job, and I can't leave the job because, as you know, filming in makeup is, you know, 13, 14, 15-hour days, right? So I was like, what am I going to do? So it was funny because I always ended up teaching other artists how to do things, you know? So I thought, you know, I'd like to be a teacher. I could teach, and then the real big reason, honestly, was like, I'd be with my kids. I'd be on the same schedule as my kids. And then I thought I'd be off on the weekend and long periods in the summer and winter that if I wanted to do makeup jobs, I could still do it. So that was kind of how it came to be, as I thought, you know, it's a good schedule for the kids. I already do teach. I taught makeup to models at night at John Casablanca's agency, you know, over there in Century City. So I was already teaching and training as it was. So it just kind of fell in. I went back to college when my Isabella, my older daughter, was born, and I became a teacher, started teaching, and I absolutely loved it. I still did makeup on the side. People would still hire me. I'd still get calls. People would need this or that. And so I still had that creative, you know, outlet, but also, you know, teaching English specifically is creative because writing, right? And I also enjoyed writing. I've always written stories as a child. When I was growing up, I'd get upset and I'd write a story, or I'd be in the bathroom a little bit too long and I'd write a story, you know, leave it in my, and my mom would find it and go, "What is this?" And I'd say, "Oh, I was in the restroom," and, you know, "Just leave it in my drawer, Mom." You know, I was like 10. I get mad at my parents, you know, and I couldn't talk back. So I would like write a story about how mad I was and, you know, make up characters. And so I always loved that. And it's just, you know, if you think about it, Joyce, because you're creative as well, creatives usually have other avenues of creativity, right? So I knew I didn't understand that when I was younger, but as I've gotten older and just seeing students in my myself now and just watching people in general, usually if you're a makeup artist, you could probably sing, or usually if you're, a photographer, you could probably dance, or, there's always other areas that we're okay in. And so that's kind of how that came to be. And then of course, I raised children and I taught for many, many years, and then actually went back into the industry not too long ago.
Wow. Let's go back to where it all began, because a lot of where you end up finds its seeds when you grow up. It's usually those, whatever happened when you were little that opened up your eyes, like maybe I'd like to. Where did it begin with Michelle?
Okay, well, like I said, I'm fourth generation Angelino, very proud of it. So I was born in Los Angeles, and I grew up in a small suburb called Cerritos, California. It was about 30 minutes out of downtown Los Angeles, and it was really idyllic. I grew up on that cul-de-sac street, played in the middle of the street till the street lights came on, us 60s, 70s kids. And parents, my dad was an engineer, and then my mother was a very important businesswoman. She ran, you probably remember this, but it was called Bambini Fertilizer.
Really?
Yes, she was what we call now a CFO. She was the finance manager, and so I grew up with my friends. I went to private Catholic school, and my uncle on my mom's side lived with us, and he cared for us, and he was in a wheelchair. So it was a great growing up life, and I always knew that I wanted to do something in the industry because movies have always caught my attention, and just the making. The funny thing is, yes, I like celebrities for the most part, but I always really was interested in the making of a movie, the writing the script and the filming and the picking the people and picking the costumes and the makeup. Like the whole art of filmmaking was super, I was super interested in that. So I knew once I started putting makeup on my Barbie dolls, my baby dolls, and my hamster.
Wait, you put makeup on your hamster?
My hamster, you heard that correctly. My hamster. Mom came and said, you can't put makeup on your hamster. So I would put it on Barbie dolls, baby dolls, cut their hair, put eyeshadow, paper dolls, I draw. And so that's kind of where it started. I have a younger sister who's a criminal psychologist, and she lives in Belmont Shore now, that I love desperately. We lost my mom a few years ago, and I still have my dad, and he lives out here by himself. And I'm a part of a big family, actually. My dad is one of 8 brothers and sisters, and so there's 22 cousins on my dad's side, and most of us live here.
Oh my gosh,
California.
Is that like something that immigrants do? Because I'm 7th generation Californian. And
I love that.
And I'll tell people that they're like, oh, you're Chinese. I'm like,
no.
I'll just say I'm ABC. I'm a banana. And they go, huh? I said, I just look Asian.
But I'm really not where that. Yeah, I get that. I know. Remember when we met? I was super impressed with that. I don't think I've met anyone more native than you, besides I think my husband, who's Native American.
But,
right?
Okay, I'll tell you something that was really interesting, is that I had heard, and we could discuss this, is that when your ancestors came over from the country over to the US, whatever traditions that they had and they brought to the country, that you still practice today, is that people can tell if they really know the customs when your ancestors immigrated based on the customs you practice.
Yes, that is true. That is true. That's true. And so you still, I noticed that your house is lovely, and I noticed that picture over your piano. And every time I go or I stay there, take care of my Monty Bubbles, I stare at that picture because it is very indicative of Chinese homes, right? It's the number one thing you notice is big, beautiful. It's your family crest almost, right?
No, actually, it was a wedding present. My sister, she folded 1,000 cranes to create the double happiness picture.
Is that okay? I don't think I've asked you that. Yeah, and it's beautiful, and I noticed that. So you're very correct on that. And I know that from the business that I've been in, as you know, the ESL business. Yeah, with the Chinese.
Michelle, you've been working with, I'm going to say you've been working with Asians. I think some of the things you know more about my culture than I do. But actually, I'm going to laugh. It's kind of funny because we actually have a family museum. And
I would love that.
yeah, but I wasn't the one that created the museum. Other people put it together.
But
right?
you told me that as far as like your immigrant parents, great-grandparents came over and then just did very well as immigrants do, right? So they own the town, and we've talked about that, you know, as setting us apart. And also, it's just, you know, my dad had a rough time coming when he came back in the 60s, and you and I've spoken about things that have happened over the years. So that's always been a love of mine, is culture, language. Of course, it always ties back to that creative side of writing and speaking.
You know, and I think a lot of it has to do with when you're an immigrant, you come to this country and you learn to assimilate, you learn to become part of it. And so when our ancestors came in, yes, there was an Asian community, and you know, it's like I would hear the stories about okay, so we had the supermarket, we had the laundromat, we had the cafe, we had the restaurant, we had the gas station, we had the videos, right?
So, I didn't hear the gas station. This one's new. Okay. So the story's getting better.
So it was very much about the community.
Right.
Okay. And community happens to be really popular now. And growing up in a small community, it's like you just learned it was all for the community, and you were there because I'm just going to say, in a small community, everything goes around faster than you're in a glass fishbowl. Okay.
Everyone knows everything you did, who you dated, who were you with, who you were with.
Whether you wanted to them or not,
exactly,
right?
Exactly, yes.
It is.
Exactly.
You're in a glass fishbowl. So anyway, but also the community is what iHollywood is built on, as you know. It's like
right.
We're focusing on developing a community. Let's focus on what is the end goal, where are we all trying to get to? And a lot of it has to do with when you're working, it's like, what are each individual's goals? Where do they want to be? Where do they want to see themselves? Right. And if we can all work together and help everybody achieve their goals, whatever they may be, right? Then we can all get there faster because we can all work and help and build each other.
Right. And I love that you and I kind of are the pillars in a lot of ways. There's several more of us, but and we're both immigrant kids in a way. Like, I'm first generation, you're not, but we still have that mentality because we built the country, right? And everybody coming together and working collaboratively. I wish we could all do that across the nation. And I think one day we'll get there, but it's just such a big passion, and it pulls at my heartstrings because my dad loves being an American, right? Yeah. And I know your family too. And sometimes that's not what we hear, you know, in the media. And I think that we kind of work a little bit harder to make sure that those dreams stay alive from our struggles of our parents before us, right? So we both have that secretly. I mean, we really never discussed a lot of that together, but we both know and understand. And we work really hard. Like, you know, when I come home and I'm complaining to you on the phone and you're like, yeah, well, I was on, 17 Zoom calls, and I'm like, oh, forget my 13-hour day, because wow. And I don't know of too many other people that put so much time and energy and dedication into what they're doing. And I really believe it is from our family, and we've learned that.
I think it does, because one of the things that you probably learned, like I did, is it begins and ends with you and what you're doing.
Yes.
Okay? You're not going to say, well, so-and-so was supposed to do it.
Right. No. Right. No. Right. We've been in those shoes. When something's gone wrong, we're like, we got to take that hit, and sometimes my own children are like, Mom, it wasn't your fault. I'm like, doesn't matter. I'm in charge.
Yep.
So how can I do that? How can I fix it? And how can I do it better and not do it again? That's always my motto on anything in life. Right?
Let's be proactive. Let's get it done. But let me ask you, okay, because of an immigrant family and English and teaching is all important to you, what made you want to get your master's degree?
So, great question. The pandemic hit. I had, basically kind of got lured back with a couple friends that stayed in contact with me. And I was writing, as you know, articles in the Chinese magazine and other magazines, kind of covering some of the rock and roll guys. and what have you. And then the pandemic hit, right? And then business was really, I had the exchange business, and predominantly with Chinese. And so that really hit hard. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I'd always said that I would like to, it was a bucket list item actually, is get my master's or possibly my doctorate in English as a second language. So I was in bed when I was thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I can't sit still in a home as long as we have, and we did actually. And I said, what can I do? Is there an online, education source from a good college? I started to investigate and research, and I realized that there were a couple programs, and there were from, USC and Pepperdine, and I applied to both, and Pepperdine accepted me. And it really is kind of a twofold, it's twofold for me in that I want to, succeed in having a higher level degree of, education to help my students. And also, I wanted to check it off my bucket list. So I'm at Pepperdine. It's a TESOL program, Masters of TESOL. I'm working my behind off. It's a difficult program. I love it. My professors are they're fantastic. They're incredible human beings. And I'm learning. I thought, no, I know all this. I've been, teaching ESL 15 years, have my own business, go to China, go to Dubai. This is nothing. Oh no. As you know, oh no, this has been an interesting experience and ride for me. But I'll be done next summer. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to helping some of the new immigrants coming into our country, because it is, that we're getting a lot right now. And a lot of them come without language, without English. And it kind of, puts them in a category where they're not part of everyday society. So I'd hope that I could do something to change that with my education and my experience.
Oh, I think that is so fabulous. I mean, it's like there's, English is our language here, and it makes all the difference. And seeing that you are so dedicated to helping immigrants,
right. It's my passion. My dad, your family, it's everybody, all of us. This is the fabric of our country.
This is the United States, right?
That's right.
The United States.
That's right. Absolutely.
And it's always been a melting pot.
Always. So I'm super happy. Thank you for asking that question. I appreciate that. I like talking about it.
Well, should I ask you what's coming up next?
Yes. So I am busy working on my master's program at Pepperdine. Woohoo! Go Waves! And I'm going to be going to Sundance. So I'm hoping to get in there. I'm going to probably be covering some of the NFT space, some of the crypto world, and then hopefully getting some financing for my documentary I'm writing about the rock royalty kids. So you'll be seeing me soon, or there'll be some media from my visit to Sundance. And that's about it right now, because that's all I can handle right now.
Well, that's a pretty full plate.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. I appreciate you.
That's a really full plate. Well, I appreciate you so much. And if anybody's sitting here watching this, I do want to remind everyone, we are a film festival. Okay.
Right. We need submissions.
But as a film festival, we have expanded. So we're not just about film, because we are also about influencer videos, photography, art, NFTs, and podcasting. That's right. Those are all hot mediums, and we do strive to be on the forefront when it comes to technology and creatives. And I just want to say thank you for joining us. Oh, actually, Michelle, tell them how we can catch up with you on your social.
Okay, so we're at IHollywood Film Fest on Instagram, IHollywood Film Fest Facebook group. We also have our website, IHollywood Film Fest, is it? Or Festival?
Yes.
Film Fest.
Actually, both of
our
them will
website.
go there.
Okay, and then you can catch me on Instagram individually, Tabrizi-Ortiz, and I think that's 4 platforms. And you will be uploading this to our social media platforms, correct?
Yep. So wherever you are following us, look for iHollywood Film Fest or iHollywood Film, whether it is Twitter, actually we aren't on Pinterest yet. We have to get
No, we don't. We don't. Yeah.
We have, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook groups, Facebook page,
right.
Eventbrite. We're going to make certain we get all of these.
That's right, Eventbrite. I forgot about that one. Whoa.
And LinkedIn. right?
Oh, yep, LinkedIn as well. Yes, yes.
Catch us wherever you are, but most of all, come join us, because we are bringing you the education so you can go ahead and level up your creativeness. Thanks
you,
for
Joyce.
joining us. Thank you, Michelle.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.